Right.
So is yours.
Welcome everyone to the Westside Planning Committee meeting for January 24th, 2017. It is 5 p.m. and we are congregated in room 310, the city conference room at the City Center, 351 West Center Street, Provo, Utah. I'd like to welcome everyone here and just give you the reminder that we are being recorded, so watch your language. And we will begin with a roll call. We'll start with Van
Bill Holterstrom.
Kay Van Buren. Bill Rash.
Beth Alligan.
Gary Winterton.
Don Christensen.
Cliff Strachan.
David Harding.
Shannon Ellsworth.
Dave Connect.
Becky Bodkin. Diana Taylor.
Dixon Holmes.
Who's supposed to? Yeah, George Carter.
Wendy Newman.
Matt Carter. Garrett Seeley.
All right. Well, welcome everyone, and we welcome Ms. McNamara joining us. Let's see. Let's begin with approval of minutes. Did anyone have any suggested changes to the minutes? No? All right. Okay. Thank Ms. Van Werken for preparing those. If there are no suggested changes, I will look for a motion to approve. Thank you, Mr. Van Buren, and second by Mr. Rash. All in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right. So for those, I didn't see a hand either way. Is that okay? Okay. Then that passes unanimously. All right. Let's jump into our policy choices. Let's see. Since the last time we met, we talked with community development, and their understanding was that our target audience for our recommendations will be the city council. So we'll make some recommendations to the city council, then the city councils will take our recommendations, and then we'll direct community development how they would like to see the southwest area plan created.
Can I ask you one with that?
Yeah,
It's not
please.
going to be incorporated into the general plan, is it?
The what?
The policy that we develop,
Yeah.
it will be in the general plan?
When the west side plan is done, however that fits into the general plan will be incorporated when we update the general plan.
Okay.
Okay. So we have kind of a general vision. The idea is it's captured in Vision 2030, becoming the Vision 2050 document, which will, I believe, be the first chapter of the general plan. So that's kind of our vision.
Yeah.
And then we got the general plan, and then we have neighborhood master plans or area master plans that get a little bit more specific.
But you don't know if those are officially adopted as part of the general plan?
I think they are. Aren't they, Dave? I think they are.
Neighborhood plans are, you'll find them in there.
Yeah, they are.
They're kind of appendices. Is that the right terminology for that?
Well, it just depends. Right now, if you look at the general plan, they're just in the middle of that chapter, right? So there's area and neighborhood specific policies in the land use chapter 6, but separate from that, there's the downtown master plan, the Joaquin master plan, Well,
the
the new
Franklin
ones.
master plan, and I believe they are appendices. But the point is all of these things are recommending documents. They're not technically code, though statutorily we need to have our general plan. So they're kind of in the same tier, but just different scope.
Okay.
It's more specific scope than the general plan.
Yeah, I just wondered if they would be formally adopted into the general.
Not technically, but they are formally adopted.
They are formally adopted, but not in the general
But not
plan.
into the general plan.
All right.
Correct. I believe, any disagreement? I believe that would be the right way to characterize it. All right. Good question. Anyway, so hopefully that kind of gives us a clearer picture of who we're drafting these recommendations for and what will be done with them afterwards.
So what we're deciding here is not the same as the neighborhood plans. I mean,
we've already seen rough drafts of those. This is kind of the higher level.
You say those, meaning,
Like what we've done, the Walking, Franklin,
Okay.
we're doing the southeast 3 neighborhoods right now.
yep. So Southeast is a draft. Joaquin and Franklin have been approved or
Right.
adopted.
But this is not what I would call a neighborhood plan. This is, to me, a higher level, because this is not being done like the other neighborhood plans, you're saying.
So my understanding is that the city council will take our recommendations and then make some choices and direct community development, finish developing the southwest area master plan, which is pretty analogous to the southeast area master plan.
Right. And so, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're kind of on a higher level here and directing what's going on with those. I'm just wondering if we're going to, at some point at all, other than the public meeting for the council, have this, or the results of what we are recommending put out to the neighborhoods first before it goes to,
Before it goes to council or before it goes to who?
or if this is going to the planning commission, which it doesn't seem to be, but before it goes to the council for sure, would there be neighborhood meetings to give input?
I think it's entirely appropriate to do that. It's up to the committee. But I think early on when we discussed the process, that was always the plan, was to get the feedback, put together the policy statements, go to those 3 neighborhoods particularly and ask them for some input, and then make your final recommendations to council.
Okay.
And any which way, as the council directs community development to develop the actual plan, that will go through, as we've seen with the southeast, and
The normal process.
will go through, quite an exhaustive process.
Right, but this is just as important or more important because it's setting some guiding principles and direction that would have some real influence on the neighborhood plans. So I wouldn't want to see this go through without being reviewed by the public in public meetings.
If it's officially part of the legit general plan, then you have to create a notice of intent to plan, right? A notice of intent to amend your general plan. So then that would incorporate, a publication in the newspaper, things like that, notices. And then if you are officially changing your general plan, then you have to have a public hearing with your planning commission when they approve it to go to the city council, right? So there's,
So all of this is preliminary to that process.
Okay.
Because it stalled a year or 2 ago, the idea was to get this group to come up with some policy recommendations to council, and then have council basically start the process with these as the policy direction to go from. But you're absolutely right about the process formula.
Yeah. So once we're done recommending, council will direct the staff to develop the area master plan, and then as that completes, then it'll go to the planning commission. It'll go through a public process, and then it could be formally adopted. But Mr. Connect is suggesting that even before we make recommendations to the council on what the council should direct community development, we should probably have another one of our kind of meetings like we did at the very beginning, where we invited everyone to the school. And
I think we should do that. I think we should put some on Open City Hall as well and go that route. Elizabeth, can you lift that screen? If you remember we put this back up. This was kind of the schedule that was outlined in the past in terms of the process. So we still will have to go back through all the regular processes. We're still up in the determine future policy section of this. And planning is pulled out for now, waiting for this committee to run its recommendations and then come back at some future part of the process. So that's generally the way it goes. We'll do a public process before you make your committee review to council.
And this list here is actually what kind of got me asking those questions. And I I think where we're at, I mean, we're now towards the end of January, and we were hoping to be wrapped up, at the beginning of the year. The thought that I had after, kind of as a reaction to this, and then went to community development and had this discussion, I believe that after that, the first two boxes we've checked, right there, we should be, determine what our recommendation will be to the council, and then that's where the council will take over, make some of those policy determinations, and then direct community development. So all of the rest of that will be after this committee has concluded.
Right, so there's actually a missing step in here, and that is after this step, let's go have our public process for stakeholders and have them put input and then come back, make your recommendations and send it back to council. And then the question is, are you done, or does this committee meet again after these parts are done? And I think it does. I think you guys will probably come back and do it some more here. But after a public process right here, we'll have planning work up their magic here and then bring it back to you guys.
Okay. Any questions, thoughts on that? All right, sounds like a plan. It took a little bit longer than anticipated, I apologize, but we did get some material out, I believe it was Thursday, and which included those the proposed policies that at least in my mind is similar to what we would hand off to the council and say these are our recommended policies for West Side development, and so hopefully everyone saw that, had a chance to look through some of those things, and I suggest that we just pick up kind of where we left off.
Can we actually start backwards? I think if we start backwards, there's a lot of discussion that we won't be having on the bottom half of it versus the top half where we've been having a lot of discussion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So if we start with the number 6, require proper sequencing of development.
Okay. And let's pull that up. An old school movie. All right. Oh, my favorite scroll button. Okay, so start number 6 is the request or suggestion. Let's jump into that. Required proper sequencing of development. So the three kind of points that I threw in here for discussion is the 10-acre blocks, which are discussed in 5, are the smallest units that will be considered for rezoning. All utilities and public infrastructure, sidewalk, curb and gutter, etc., must be installed for the entire block, even if not all of the block is being redeveloped or developed, whatever the case may be. And then a 10-acre block will only be considered for rezoning if it is adjacent to non-agriculturally zoned block. Okay, so
Does this include infill?
It can't, because we can't, it depends on what you consider infill, because sometimes it's only an acre. That's the challenge that we face in that. If there's I don't know how to deal with smaller pieces that
I guess that's why I was asking, because if you have a 10-acre block and you have half of it developed, does that mean the next 10-acre block can be developed because half of it is developed but half of it isn't?
These are all good questions.
So you're saying if there's 10 acres, but then next to it there's 5 and 5, they're zoned differently?
So in it says you can only consider rezoning for 10 acres.
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming that doesn't mean the whole 10 acres has to be the same zone. Just
Right, so
has to be considered all at once.
for example, so here already are the main streets in the blue. They're already on the plan. 5 suggests that we have major local streets that are also done in this grid format, and we can talk about that when we get to 5. But the idea is these become these are roughly 10-acre blocks. And the thought would be that there would be some minor local roads inside of these, whatever makes sense for the development. But the idea is that this, if this were to become the plan, the local street plan, then we know that these roads would need to be built and whatever the ones inside would look like. But this whole area would need to be considered for the rezone. You wouldn't just say, okay, well, this person wants to rezone, so we're going to leave all of this still at A11 while this develops, and then later on, when this family wants to sell their farm, now this will be rezoned.
Can you use eminent domain to build those roads?
Could it be done? It might. I'm not sure what all the requirements are. Would it be done? I would suggest not, but
I'm going to contradict you if that's all right.
Yeah, please.
So typically what would happen is, if this was, if you basically said, and I think that's really where we have to go back to, if you're talking about the size of area for transportation, you're talking about the collector streets essentially. If you want the collector streets to be put into the master plan, like it is, like is suggested here in black, then I think you need to define that in there, that you would like to see as a policy that the roads be built kind of that way. And then what typically happens is once it's in the plan, then as development grows along those roads, the road gets expanded. And if there's some reason there's a need to actually go in and build a road to finish a connection or whatever, and development hasn't got there, yes, generally cities will use eminent domain if they need to, if they can't negotiate something. Most of the time, in my experience, they'll allow development to grow until that last little bit, until they actually have to finish the road off. But most of the time, the cities will let it just expand as the need rises. But I think you want to talk about 5 and you want to talk about 6 here, but in talking about 5 leads to 6, and either you want to have that broader grid or you don't.
I know.
And last meeting, looking at the minutes here, we said number 5, create a robust transportation network in the downtown area. Blocks are roughly 4 acres. This plan calls for 10-acre blocks. So we're talking 2 blocks in the old system, in the existing system, which is closer to Salt Lake. Perhaps inside the block there might be smaller roads. Mr. Halterstrom doesn't love the use of the grid system in the newer neighborhoods. Mr. Connect likes the grid systems of Joaquin and Mazer because there are lots of ways to get where you're going, and which fits with what you showed on the walkability in the email. Daybreak is 4,000 acres. There may be some helpful illustrations of similar concepts in development, such as breaking up some of the area into 10-acre blocks and then have some smaller roads within the block. What I got from the minutes and recalling the last meeting, this body has not settled on whether the concept works. And if the concept works, then the sequencing of development follows. So you've got to decide, do you want to have major roadways that are constructed along those lines, or do you want to kind of let it develop a little haphazardly?
I didn't know. Karen, did you get my email yesterday?
Yeah, but I can't remember it now.
Okay. So we had discussed in our agricultural meeting, we took a survey of landowners and we had them specifically say what they wanted to do with their land, but we haven't taken those surveys and like marked on this map where these people live and what their intentions are.
Well, we kind of have. I mean, virtually everything from here through about here right now is currently farmland or largely farmland, right? And so really what you're talking about is some of those areas are going to develop. And the question is, do you want to have the continuity of the major roads go through so that there's some valid connections, right? And if you do, then you state that in the policy and the city staff will plan stuff accordingly. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to take a farm out at any given location until such time as there's a need or a desire.
But, so can we not designate, where the Carters, I'm not sure where theirs is, but designate the size of it, what their intentions are, maybe put the road around theirs.
Well, I think what you can do is you can define it as saying, I don't know the engineering language, so David, if you have a better idea, but you can say, look, we want to have continuity of our collector streets to go through, and if it ends up meandering because it makes more sense to do so or whatever, that becomes a reality.
So LaDawn brings up a great point. We do need to identify those people that want to stay in the business.
Yeah.
Because if there's a section that wants to stay in farming and we go, oh, we're sorry, we're just going to put another road through the middle of what you want to do. That's what we've been doing for quite a while on the west side, and it's not been helping certain farmers.
David, I'm going to get blunt here because this is what I'm concerned about, is that we're saying, yeah, this is what the farmer wants to do, but what do their kids want to do? And what do their grandkids want to do? And are we tying them up to where we are no longer going to be able to do what even their kids and grandkids want to do? I have not heard one farmer come up to me and say, I want my grandkids here on this farm. I haven't heard that. Now maybe you're going to get people, come and tell me, because I have not heard that. I want to sell my property and I want to get, this is what I'm hearing, is I want to get as much money as my neighbor that's selling his property for development as I'm getting here. Is when I decide mine, I want the same value that this person next door to me is getting. And that person next door is not going to sell his ground for agricultural purposes. And I think we need to get down to this committee and start deciding. I'm being pretty blunt here, but
Did Dale Despain do a bad thing?
No, but he hasn't told me. I haven't heard anybody say, I want to go into that Despain easement. I want this to be ever and ever. I don't ever want to sell the ground. I want it to be this way, and my kids don't want to sell it, and my grandkids don't want to sell it, and everybody else. So I just think we're down to the point here that we've got to start making some decisions for the future and say, this is what the city wants, or is this what the neighbors, the farmer wants? I'm getting concerned here that we're not talking blunt here, and that's why I started off today, because I think it's time that we get blunt and make some real hard decisions.
If we go back to that last one real quick. So to answer the question that was put out before, yeah, that one there. Nope, that one. This is the current major street plan for Provo. Red is collectors, and you can see, obviously the West Side Connector has now been completed. The blues are, sorry, I said that backwards. The arterials, the blue are the collectors. I think the council, based on the votes that have been taken, felt that the alignment of that Lakeview Parkway needed to go in, and eminent domain was used for that. The blue, I think, and this is part of why I think sequencing matters, is I don't, my take on it, and I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for the whole council, but my take on it is there's no desire to use eminent domain for those collector streets. And if we sequence it right, we won't have the need to do that because they will be built as the development calls for it. And so the question is, you know, are we going to do, if we go to the black one, which is just a proposed, here are some, they're not even collectors, they're smaller than the collectors. Here are some black roads that could be put in, but that's the local street plan. And as development says, okay, we're going to develop this, the city comes back and says, okay, that's fine, just know that a road has to go here. And can we go to that real quick?
Which one?
Let me just finish up. Yeah, just.
West side?
No, the other one is just the. Okay, sorry. And so if we decided, you know, and again, we don't have to decide. I'm showing this as an example of what this might look like, not as this is the proposal. But the recommendation, if we decided to do it, the recommendation would be, you know, we suggest we have interconnected streets, you know, local streets forming a grid system or something like that, and then community development figures this out. So the idea is, as people develop, they know, okay, I have to put a road here. I have spoken with one developer recently, and this developer said, you know, I want to put in these streets, but there's one homeowner or one landowner that just isn't letting me do this. Would you consider eminent domain on that? And my answer was no. So my answer at that point is, if you can't get all of these pieces together, then it's not time to develop this plot of ground. And that's kind of what I started off a couple weeks ago saying is, if we want to promote infill, and if we want to slowly develop the west side and get the best development possible, some of these principles will slow it down because you have to get all of these pieces together before it can go.
Let me suggest something to you. So these blue lines here,
Yes.
that line, and this one's already in existence. Those follow basically boundary lines on properties, on the parcels. This one does not. This one does to about here. And then if you were following parcel lines, somewhere in this lot here, somewhere in this area here, you would probably drop down a little bit and then come across. The point being made, you can craft the language to allow for protection of farms and still allow for roads to go through. It just means that sometimes you will take a road off of one side or the other, but really you guys, a lot of this is going to develop because people will want to get out of the business. A lot of people want to keep farming as long as they can, but you're going to have to just decide. And you realize that if you say you want to have some, you know, streets that actually go somewhere, then yeah, at some point, somehow they've got to get connected.
But the point is this is when people decide to develop. This is what would have to be done.
Thank you.
Okay, sans agriculture and farming, sans streets, how about the policy of sequential developing? Is that something that people can agree on?
That's in the plan now. No leapfrogging.
Is it?
They call it leapfrogging.
It happens all the time.
Right. And so by making these recommendations, we're reinforcing.
So is that why the 10-acre blocks is you have to develop the whole block before you can move on to the next one? Back to my original question, does half the block have to be developed before the next one?
And that's not what it says. It says to be considered for rezoning. And I've again had some conversations with developers, and there is, you know, and I think we hear it from Mr. Winterton a little bit as well, and maybe Mr. Van Buren, that, you know, there's some heartburn about this, like, you know, these 10 acres, how would that be done or whatever. And after discussing, you know, maybe say like the infrastructure, and again, this is throwing it out for discussion. But instead of requiring all the infrastructure, like, okay, the sidewalk has to be built and the person kind of developing has to fund that and all that, even though, maybe half the block isn't being redeveloped and all that. Maybe what it would be instead is these blocks would be considered for rezone altogether, but it would need a plan. And so even the people are saying, hey, I'm not ready to do this, who knows what's going to happen in 25 years, but let's make a plan for when this redevelops, so everything's kind of integrated and you don't get roads that don't go anywhere, or, oh man, I sure wish we had done this when this developed, because now I want to develop and I'm now cut off. We see that all the time with infill. This would be great, but we can't get access to it because of other things that have been done.
I really have to leave for a family function, I apologize, but I'm gonna just, if you go back to your list of the objectives, my worry, and I'll continue, just the middle tab there of the objectives, the bottom three.
Yep.
My worry is that I don't feel like we're being visionary, I feel like we're being prescriptive in a very narrow way. And I feel like we're way down too deep again. And I feel like we've got to come back saying, here's the quality I want for this area, here's where I want. Then let's let the planners figure out if the 10 acres are right and the squares are right, it's a road block. So I just worried, and just set for the record, that I think we're doing poor planning because we're trying to be so prescriptive instead of starting with the vision up first. And so I think that B maybe, but A and C certainly to me are too prescriptive until we have the actual higher level vision that we're trying to accomplish. And then I would love to keep saying.
5 or 6 that you were talking about?
But I'm going down to 6A and C here.
Okay.
But I mean the grid concept, I understand the concept. Brigham Young understood the concept, but I haven't seen too many cities in the last 50 years keep developing on that concept. So I just would rather be. I worry that we're planning too down here instead of saying, okay, let's get back up here in the higher level of the vision, and let's have a few good roads that connect. And principally, we want good throughput. But if they're this way or this way or this way, I'd rather let professionals, developers, homeowners who buy, people who develop make those choices, people who want to buy it make those choices than me. So I just worry that we're getting way too deep here. And I'm excited that we're having a high-level vision discussion, but I think we need to go up another step here and let some of these decisions will be made later on, size of blocks may be made later on, where the roads are going. If we say generally think that where the blue roads are generally going to be, I'm fine with that. But in the same respects, I have no problem that blue road goes like that to accommodate the right vision somewhere. And so I just want to be careful that we're not being that we're not restricting future vision. Is that okay? Yeah.
Can I comment? How many comments?
Okay. Yeah.
I agree with what he said, and that's what's been going through my mind. We need to get an idea what the whole vision of it. As you make a master plan, I got the impression it was what the people would want to make, you might say, the use of the land rather than the size of the blocks and everything. There are some things to consider though. I'm a farmer. I lived down there for most of my life, but I finally I finally moved down to my Gunnison, and I'm still farming down there. It's hard to make a living up here. If you want to know what the farmers want to say about it, it's awful hard for one of the kids to get in there and make a living on a piece of ground. And my kids know that, and they don't want to farm. And we have lost a lot of our irrigation water in that area now. I don't know if you're aware of these things, but if you go back to that picture where you had broken up into the individual farms, you'll find out that and we'll talk about it in a minute, from 11th West, the wells have mostly dried up. From 11th West, well, or you can see it the other way around. 1600 West are dry, 11th West are dry, cleared over 2050. the 2050 they're dry. The wells are dry. We've never had irrigation.
And
we have not had irrigation water from the city. I talked to Jerry Herbert a few days ago. He was water master when I was farming in Provo, and he told me that a lot of the country over there, where they had some really nice farm ground, so it doesn't deliver any water to those farms anymore. There's no water there. Also, this new road that they've got through there has changed the underground water. The closer to the lake you get, we could have used, and we did use, sub-irrigation. But they've also got the drains that go through, underneath the sewers. They put the gravel to bed the pipe, and the groundwater runs down all these gravel beds underneath the pipe, and it rushes the water down to the lake. And then you've got a big storm drain to on 2050 West, and that bypasses a lot of ground, right exactly where you're talking in there. And so it's going to be hard for anybody to farm with no water, or have a way to get the water. So if you want to know what the farmers think, it may be kind of late to be considering keeping a lot of farm ground down in that area. And that's been a poor neighborhood of Provo for ever since Provo was built. That's where the farms were, and the people never had much. If the farmers could get something out of the ground now and divide it up amongst some of the kids that they've got, I know that my kids worked really hard on the farm, really hard. And they've not realized a lot, and I haven't realized a lot. I had to move on south and stay in Florida. There's another young man that's left, young, maybe he's not quite so young anymore, but he's just pulled out. I think he went to Idaho, I'm not sure. He's pretty much about give up to farm in that area, so that's something to consider. But now when you go back to this block plan, and you go to where you might consider letting farms develop one after another, the sewer problem is one of the really big problems. And I talked to the city engineer several times about that. I've had offers on my farm and told the developers, you can't do it. There's no sewer down there. You can't take my piece of ground and develop. But if you got the farmers decide that they're going to sell, and we represent some of the farms down there, that's to be right here. There are some offers that have been given to us right now, and we're considering it strongly. And Dave Graves and I talked about the sewer. He says they would rather build one pump station down there than Tamara instead of 3 small ones. And so, back to there are more farmers, I understand, than just us 3. There are 2 more east of us. We are considering it. Now if we go back, I don't remember the man's name that spoke and left. He talked about having a high vision of what's going to happen there. And some people would like to see some green. The thought that comes to my mind, they may have to settle for a park or a community garden or something, but to have people that stay there and try and farm it with no water, that's a tough one. Some of the questions I have, are they going to want to, is this commission here going to decide to keep the density where it's been in previous developments? Or will you allow a little higher density and have a variety of building situations, maybe some condominiums or whatever it takes to put more people there, some individuals, some homes where there's more than one family, maybe some green park or something. And there's some reason behind that, and this comes from a couple of the men that I talked to in Connect also.
So I have a question. So what do we do with someone who absolutely does for whatever reason, want to stay in farming, and it's not about, to me, their grandkids, it's about what they want to do. What are we going to do? How are we going to work with them if they want to stay in farming? Do we say, we're not going to work with you because you have no right to stay in farming?
What does work with you mean?
We've cut off access to people,
So
take
are
away-
you saying we put in a new water system for them?
No. When
I
they
don't
can't
know.
even access their property.
We should, I think they should be entitled to it.
Can I ask your name just so we have that for the record?
Matt Carter.
Matt Carter? Okay. And, but let's come back here and take a few comments.
Let me say one more thing.
Okay.
I would be pleased if I had your names and your telephone numbers, so I could call you and ask you questions. If you wanted, if you'd get that for me, I'd appreciate that. Like I said, I talked to Dave Graves a lot of times. And I've known Terry Herbert for a long time. Terry recommended me to call Dave tonight. Dave thought that I could get your names and phone numbers and be able to call you and see what's going on.
Okay. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mr. Carter for his comments. I think if I had 100 acres in Provo, I'd sell it and move to Gunnison too. So, nothing against Provo, but it's easier to farm down there. There's more opportunity, is that right?
It's much easier.
Yeah.
We had a dairy in Provo, and when it comes time to clean the krills, we haul manure past sometimes a school and 2 churches or things like that. And through the neighborhoods, we try to keep the roads as clean as we can. But once in a while, something goes wrong, and you might have a mess to clean up. Maybe
Yeah.
not big ones, but some occasionally. But it's hard to farm in the city.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good point. One question I want to ask the committee is, what's our planning horizon? Are we planning for next year, or are we planning for 20 to 30 years out?
Asked that last time.
Okay, I wasn't here.
And what was the answer?
What was the answer?
There was no answer.
There was no answer, because I think planning, yeah, are we doing daily planning, or are
If
we
it's a 5-year
doing
vision, I say
generational
preserve it
planning?
all and let it lay for 5 years and develop downtown.
And I'm looking at this as a 50-year vision.
Okay.
Yeah.
That guides for over the next 50 years, and that preserving and developing slowly and making sure we get high quality. To me, I think we can set a fairly high bar because there is demand. There's times where you can't do that, but right now there is such demand. We can say you have to hit this bar in order to be able to do it, and there's enough demand there that people are going to put all of those components
And
together.
Dave, this is the one thing that concerns me a little bit, because that demand is going to change in 3 years. It's going to change. I don't know what a new presidency is going to do. You're going to get all those things that are going to change every year. And if we're saying we're setting the high demand right now, setting the vision, we want to have a vision that will last 50 years and not 3 years. And so that does concern me if we put too high of standard on this right now. I agree we want to have high standards, but those standards, we don't want to kill it.
But I would be okay if for 3 years nothing develops because the timing is not right, but over to 50 years that we get to where we want.
And
So I have 2-part question. One, I think with the proper sequencing, the policy about that, you said it's already in the general plan to proper sequence of
It
development.
talks about not leapfrogging, and of course we're constrained by the fact that if we don't have sewers and utilities in place, it becomes impossible. We're seeing that down in the Lakewood neighborhood where somebody wants to do a subdivision over here that's not connected to Osprey, and they're saying to the farmers that don't want to sell, hey,
We're going to tear up your land.
we want an easement through your property whether you like it or not. Well, they don't have to give an easement.
Okay, so I think for number 6, instead of not worry about the 10-acre blocks right now, but I think we can all agree that a proper sequencing is a policy decision that should be in this. Everybody say yes? I agree. Okay.
I don't understand
Doesn't
what
agree?
proper
Oh.
sequencing
Let
means.
me explain it. What
Okay.
happens now, right now, as I understand it, the general plan says that if you have a property, let's say this property here, because there's neighborhood there and there's neighborhood there, this area could develop,
Yes.
right? But this let's say there's nothing else there, this probably cannot. The only way this can be developed is if somebody's willing to put in all the infrastructure necessary to get
Well, that's
to
what
get
I'm
there.
saying, take out the clause of the infrastructure and say you have to develop in sequence, because that way you're not gonna have as many infill problems.
Well, it does then raise the question you have to consider from policy-wise. If this guy wants to sell and these properties around him haven't developed and he wants to develop his property, but he's willing to put the road in and the sewer and et cetera, are you going to tell him, no, he can't because he has to wait for this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy to develop?
Yes, I would say that.
If he's willing to put in the infrastructure,
Well, but this is my reasoning on that, because when he's putting in the infrastructure, let's say, as a hypothetical, 600 is a corridor where we're allowing high-density townhomes, and he wants to build single-family residency. The infrastructure that he puts in for that single-family residency isn't going to be enough that the townhomes can then piggyback off of.
Well, you're getting down into the weeds again because
Well,
you're
no,
describing
it's-
what they're going to put in.
Well-
The question is, are you willing to do something other than what we've got now, which is you pretty much have to be developed on two sides, no leapfrogging? If that's what you want, then say
One
that.
side,
One side.
because then you're developing.
So if somebody was to
in pattern.
develop this property right here
And
and they
go
want to
straight down the
continue going
corridor?
down, you're okay with that?
Because that's a sequence to me.
Is that what this committee wants?
Well, here's my difficulty with that. If you look, if we were bringing up a satellite image of this, we have, 1 acre farms and things that go there. Is that considered developed? I mean, because it's not
It's
developed or not
actually-
developed. It kind of flows. It's a kind of a gradient in it. I mean, let's talk about, as an example, let's talk about Scott's Corner. Would we consider that leapfrog development or not?
Try and enlighten you about some of that ground there already.
Everyone okay with that? Yeah, go for
That
it.
next map.
Start with your name.
George Carr.
George Carter.
The previous one?
No, the next one, Star Wars Squares on it. Okay, you see from 6 South?
Yeah, 6 7. Yep.
Okay, go to 2050 West.
Okay.
No, that's not 20.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
that-
Right.
that-
Okay.
2050 West, clear down,
Okay.
clear over to 1600 West.
Yep.
That's all going to be developed.
Already
Bunch of
been
it's
developed.
already signed with a developer,
Okay.
Woodside Homes. They're buying it all. And Mac's ground runs clear down that Geneva Road, clear to the lake. He owns that strip right there. And then we own over in there, and I don't know what that thing was, my farm's down in there where you're at.
And isn't this Geneva Road?
No, Geneva
Jason
Road's one over.
Gene Carter's,
That is the extension of.
that whole thing is gonna be developed. And the mayor's got 10 acres there. And all of it's gonna go, Woodside is buying all that ground.
But it's right below all of that housing development anyway.
All
So
what?
it's just, all that,
There's
just
already
above
housing development
600.
here.
Oh, yeah.
So
No,
It would
and
still
6 South
follow-
down there's not, that's all farms.
Okay.
It's all good, Woodside's buying all that ground. And they're interested in putting that Geneva Road in down there and the pump station. They're even
Isn't
talking
that the
about
Prince
it.
development?
They're gonna come see,
No.
Woodside asked me to come in tonight and find out about that.
Okay. And so I guess this is kind of what I'm saying, and we need to be careful. I think we need to think concrete as examples of this is kind of what's happening, but we also need to stay high up on the policy. But there are times, I think there are some people that want to stay farming for a long time, and as we talked about last time, we're talking about supporting them as long as they want to farm. But we also need to understand there's a lot of things in motion already.
Okay, but let me tell you, from Geneva Road East, there is nobody who's gonna farm it. There ain't none of them, they're all gonna sell it. Every one of them. On the east side of 1600 West, it's under contract already. All them houses, in there, that's all under
Scott's Corner.
contract. And they've been all through the Provo City, and they're having a problem with 1600 West, because they're gonna have to remove 2 or 3 homes there. As soon as they get that figured out, all that on the east side will go in, because that guy's already got all these people in contract. They want them over there. And most of us on the west side. To the Geneva Road. They can't Geneva Road West, and there would be nothing.
So we're talking about this. Does that jive with what the agricultural committee has seen, or some of the people that you've heard that say, no, we're going to stay here for a long time? Are they east of?
That goes right back to what LaDawn's been saying, and I've asked from the beginning, we have to identify those people that really don't want to sell. And how do we work with them? How do we help them? How do we work around them, plan around them, if they're really not going anywhere? I admit that most people are probably going to sell, but then you need to know who is not going to sell. And as far as the grid pattern, I mean, I'm okay with the grid pattern. I just think if you're going higher level, you have to say, do we want to plan any streets at all? And if so, on what level? We ran into a real problem with the project behind Carpenter Seat on State Street, because even though it was pretty obvious you needed a local streets plan, nobody bothered to do it ahead of time. And then we had this train wreck where we ended up putting all this traffic down a road that should never ever have it. So having some basic principles and a local streets plan in place helps guide development.
And let me be clear again, this is not the proposal. This is an example of what the proposal might end up giving.
Right, and so what I would take into account, if you were going to, what I would suggest is if you want a local street plan, is a local street plan this kind of thing in terms of verbiage, or is it more of this?
Well, if you want what's up there, you don't need a plan.
Okay.
So
It just happens.
to a point.
So what I would suggest is you decide on, if you're going to have linear, I don't know what the right term is it linear development? If you're going to allow for that, then, and you still want to have some kind of local streets plan, then I think you define that in your policy recommendations that you want a local street plan to be created for these larger areas that provides connectivity between the major thoroughfares, major roadways, and
Even if it doesn't look like a grid, you mean?
right.
So can we say that without actually designating anything, just say
I think you can. You just have to define
linear
it. And
policy with local street plans and connectivity? And that's the policy.
planning will help us if we take down the concept of planning. They'll help us with the language to make sure it fits, and then we can come back with some language on that. But I think you so far in this document, you're very clear. You want to support agriculture insofar as people want to continue agriculture. The question is now for those who want to develop, either now or 50 years down the road, what are the guidelines that they're going to operate under? And that's where we have to get to. We don't have to get down to exactly what they're putting in. We just have to still be very, very high level. Come back to the language, agree on the policies, and then and then go to the next level of planning on it.
So the idea of no leapfrogging, is that already policy? And
Kind of is.
so we don't really need to
Except
worry
it
about the
happens all
proper
the time.
sequencing.
But it happens all the time, so I think we do want to reinforce.
And then do you also incorporate like how much green space will be required? How many parks will be designated?
It may, but let's not get there yet, because I think that's a further down into the.
I think we can talk about the policy that we want to see.
That's a different, that's open space preservation.
Right, which was something that, not the focus of today's discussion, but yes, I think those policies are something that we want to articulate.
Karen, can you send us the specific each landowner?
If they indicated it. When we were able to invite each person by email, but not everybody chose to put their name. And because of the way Open City Hall works, I guess if you do it as a members only topic, it doesn't make people enter an actual physical address. So, because I was checking on that today, and there is no address for each of those. So we'd have to just go back and, we could send out an email to everybody all over again and just say, if you're planning on continuing, please send us the address of your property.
Okay, just
That's
because
as close
I
as I
talked
get.
to another gentleman, Mark Boone, their family owns 5 acres next to the airport, and his comment to me was, I'm sure we're gonna be the next phase, and, you know, and I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, they'll take my land in the next phase.
And we still haven't seen an airport plan.
So, but just like I say, if we, these people that do want, we can designate where they are so we can see
So does he not want to sell it, Don?
who doesn't want to sell.
Ever? And do you think his kids would?
His kids are only 10 right now.
I know, and I just,
But
this
50
is,
years, they'll be 60.
and those are the things that I think that we need to start talking
I mean,
about.
well, you can think
Because
about, but we shouldn't plan his land for him.
No,
He has to
no.
sell.
You're not, because what you've got here is you're saying, we want to, you're saying preserve agriculture for those that want to preserve it. But for those that want to develop, here's how you're going to do it.
And what if they want to develop in 10 years?
It's still, here's how you do it.
This is how you do it, okay? And that's the thing, because I hear a lot of things, oh, we're going to preserve this agriculture for our posterity. And that's great if that's what our posterity wants. And I'm just not sure where the posterity is. I don't hear the voice of the posterity, of course, but that's my concern is there a route for people to hold onto the land as long as they want, as long as their kids want, and decide, and do I put the easement on? Is it fair for me to say, you can't sell your
You
kids?
have to buy it.
They'd have to.
And who's gonna sell it?
Dale Spain.
And do I want Dale to Spain to choose my situation for me from now on, and my kids?
So if somebody actually does want to sell their development rights, you're against that?
Yeah, I am now. I just have not seen a plan how that can work appropriately.
Well, I wish Bill was here now.
I just
I
don't
asked him
see.
a question a couple of times ago and said, if somebody puts their land in a TDR, can it then be subdivided down to make micro farms if they don't want a 40-acre farm?
Depends on how you define the TDR rules.
Okay.
I mean, you could do
I'm
almost
just being
anything you
blunt here
want,
now.
as long as you
I'm just
define it.
saying,
Yeah,
we
and
gotta
we're
get
getting
going
into ag
here.
preservation again.
So that's why I'm doing that.
Does that all work?
Yeah, if we're talking about 5-acre parcels, we're wasting everybody's time because this is micromanagement, not planning. So can we get away from some of that and move a little bit higher, like Bill always says, a higher vision? Not talk about 5 acres, but talk about 50 years from now.
Can I
But
make a suggestion?
but
for
are those 5 acres in the vision for 50 years from now? And so I
That's micromanagement though. Like if we have planned for that 5 acres 50 years from
Right,
now,
I'm
that's
not-
crazy.
and I know some people want to talk about specific spots, but I'm trying to keep it as principles.
Uh-huh.
As a principle, are we going to facilitate the use of 5-acre farms in the future?
5 acres.
Not specific 5 acres,
Yeah.
but just in general,
I
is
get
this something
that.
that
I
we
get
would
that.
support?
But like someone's 5 acres, like
No, no,
the
no.
Johnson family's 5 acres,
No, no, no.
Brother Smith's 5 acres. Let's not do that for anybody.
But it's still informative to know how many there are that don't want to sell at this point and where they're located so that we can maybe plan around them rather
Yeah.
than putting a
It
road
might-
right through
And I
them.
think you can, but I don't think you want to, I think we keep getting worried about which specific property owners right now. And I think we can identify that as we go through that cycle of that list of things to do. But in terms of, if you want to provide the protections, then how are we going to do that?
But if we go through and we categorize or we catalog where everyone is today, you know, they want to sell, they don't want to sell, and every person, that's still a snapshot. Tomorrow, everyone can choose to, right?
It will.
They will change their mind. So we're looking at snapshots of this day, you know, like January 2017, people thought this. Who knows what they're going to think next year?
And I think that's why I want the plan to be like a 50-year plan, that if people decide to do these things, this is how they have to develop. So when we get there in 50 years, it'll be a quality community. Now, with that said, I do think if the community says, hey, for our open space, we would like an agricultural feel to it, and then so now Parks and Rec says, oh, you know, this is the kind of thing they're looking for, so let's look at a Wheeler Farm type thing. And let's look at these, and those things may run into perpetuity. or at least beyond the 50 years. And that's fine, because that's community dictating what kind of sense of place that they want. But I think, but as far as, sorry,
Yeah.
keep it at the principle.
Shannon, what are our options generally when we talk about sequencing of development? You're a planner. How would you characterize sequencing? If we were to say, if we were to give direction to or recommendation to council, so the council can give direction to the planning department, what are our options?
Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? Because some developer's gonna come in and want an exception, and he's gonna have all the rights in the world to do that. So, as bad as, it's not bad, but like some of the objectives that we listed, they need to be more vague, right? They need to be more vague and say, we wanna go with sequencing and not 10-acre blocks. We wanna go with, we want to.
So never mind the size of the blocks. Just
Yeah.
simply say in
Get
terms of
away
it.
from
Are we talking
specifics.
two-sided, linear, one-sided?
Yeah,
I mean,
some of
what
that, yeah.
what are
Define your
the catchwords we
criteria,
need to
but-
have in a policy so that this body can make a recommendation
Define
on
your
it?
criteria if you've decided that you want sequencing, right? So if that's what we feel good about, then.
So
define
one of the
your
criteria is whether or not we want sequencing or we don't care.
Well, that's a decision, right? But if you say, yes, we want sequencing, then what's your criteria? Is it one side, is it two sides, is it rezoning, or is it development? Because zoning and development are different, right? What's built and what's.
So do you want, as a body, do you want to see some kind of sequencing or are you willing to let it
Somebody answered
happen?
yes to that.
However.
Well, I don't understand the question. I don't know what sequencing means.
Okay,
That's
it
my
means
frustration.
that you have a development here.
And if you do linear sequencing, then they can develop down here, and then they can develop here, here, or here.
Right now it says you have to have two neighborhoods next to you in order to develop. Or on two sides of your property. Otherwise you can't. Linear would be as long as there's
Do you
So
no.
we have
know, do you
a
know how many
slide.
developments in Provo you tell we would not have if we had to follow or how far
I'm not
behind?
disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that
So,
your
no,
task is to come up with
actually-
a policy.
The general plan as it states now does not talk about what we're in this with blocks and sides. It just talks about leapfrogging and sequencing.
Yeah, and
If you were going down a main road and there's just one property on the one side of you and that's where the sewer ends and you want to continue it, I mean, then it's not a matter of being two properties. It may just be one.
And that's what I'm saying. Continue the utilities.
It's
And
it's
a
called
linear-
connecting the dots instead of a dot here and a dot there and
that, to me, that's the key, is being able to connect those dots.
Well, let me ask just this, hypothetically speaking, why do we not want dots? Does it cost the city more money?
Yes.
Okay, so why else do we not want dots?
And then it also makes it difficult to have integrated development. So this
Cohesive
dot
developments.
develops, and then this dot develops, and then there's some space in the middle, and now there's no good way to get.
Okay, so maybe we write that down, we want cohesive developments, we want to save the city money. What else? Like, why would you want?
So why is it
dots, or why
costing the
would-
city money?
I don't know. Does the developer pay for all infrastructure going out there, or does the
yeah,
city
he's
pay
not going to
install
want to pay for
infrastructure?
that 2-foot line when he only needs a 6-inch line.
Well, the city, there's already, I'm sure, Public Works standards that says the city's not gonna pay for it, so.
Oh, we do.
Right, so why would the city
We
pay
get-
for it?
No, we do end up paying for it sometimes. Of course, maybe I should ask, do we ever just let them put in something too small? Or what do we do to them?
According to our master plan network of our utilities and streets, we say you need to put in this size. So the idea is to not have it undersized.
But you have to have a plan to know what
Yeah.
size.
But it already is. And we have that based on 4 units per acre.
4 units per acre.
Right, so the developer can't put in,
If I, as a developer, if my demand is not for your 21 inch, I only need an 8 inch, state code says you have to reimburse me for that additional upside.
That's what I'm saying.
So the
But
city
it's over,
Sorry, Chris
10 year-
Alcalis with DR Horton.
it can be over a 10-year period of time, or
Correct. So we work together between the developer and the city to work out an arrangement, but the city does have to pay that additional cost if I'm not demanding or placing that demand on the city.
That's what I'm saying, sequential development will, with a local road plan.
There's talk about needing 2 sides of our building next in a corner where you've got 2 sides, and there's other comments that you need 1 side. If you want to get involved with talking of the road discussion, the actual roads, I do believe that you have to have 2 entrances into a neighborhood for the fire engine in case one of them's not open. And so for that reason, you've got to have two ways in.
Yeah, that's true. And when we had this down, I was going to point out, we heard from the fire marshal who kind of talked about, the difficulty it's going to be to service this west part of Provo, and was asking for connectivity of roads so he can, that the response time is going to depend, and kind of wanted to show, the one above 6 South, the time that it would take to respond on average versus if something is opened up. One thing I just wanted to throw out, and this is just an example, it might be somewhat informed by real world proposals, but as an example, here's something that say it's about 50 acres in this block. Right now, we might have people that, this person wants to sell, this person wants to sell up to that point, or this person's going to sell up to that point. And so right now, we've got people that want to sell, and so now we have developers who are coming in and saying, okay, well, I'm gonna make a plan for that, and they're gonna redevelop this, and they're gonna put the homes in there. And right now, often the streets are like, well, I'll stub something here, and maybe in the future, a road will go on, and then I'll stub something there. Maybe this one goes all the way through. So sometimes there's roads that are stubbed, but it's somewhat just kind of arbitrary, like, well, this might be a good place, and we don't necessarily have a plan. I think some of what we're talking about with sequencing and the part in there about developing or having what I'd like to propose down in 6 is that if we have some sort, maybe it's not grid or whatever, but if we have some sort of interconnected street plan that says, okay, a road needs to go here, and whatever it looks like. I'm going to draw them straight, but they don't have to be straight. Let's say a couple local roads are there. Here. So what I'm suggesting is that this block here, even though some people aren't looking to sell right now, we still say that if you want to rezone part of this unit away from agricultural, we would like a plan for how this entire thing will look.
don't we have some of that? Don't they have to come in with a general plan for that, a general idea for those types of things?
They have to come in with an area plan. It's like 500 feet outside of their actually.
So do we need to expand that more than 500 feet?
It would just be their take on how that could develop. It doesn't tie them to anything. It just says, well, you can put a road here and here and here and you'd be okay. It doesn't really tie them down to it though.
Right.
And so what I'm suggesting is at this stage, I think we can see far enough out that we can get a rough plan to integrate, to have development integrated across the entire West Provo, and I think I think, I guess my suggestion is now this landowner is going to come to the table or be asked to come to the table and say, we're making a plan for this that's going to be recorded, and so we would like you to be a part of this, even if you're not planning on selling now, but at some point, whether it's your kids or your grandkids, how would you like to see this done? Maybe have roads that look like that, or maybe we'll have 3 cul-de-sacs, or whatever that's done. But then that plan, it could change in the future, but at least we have a recorded plan that this is what we think is going to happen inside of this unit of development, and that can be done whenever something is rezoned away from agricultural. Now we've got these little plans that are in place, and again, someone can come and propose that we deviate away from that, but at least there's something there just to start with. And now when those roads are stubbed, they're stubbed in a place that makes sense for that area. So that's not what's written down in 6 right now, but that's something that, based on the discussions I've had, I'd like to propose.
What would that be called?
A block plan?
So can we just change 6 as a policy statement being require proper sequencing of development with local road plan? And from right now, it sounds like it's a 500 foot.
Yeah. Right now, the maximum block length is 500 feet, so once they hit 500, they've got to put another road in.
Okay,
And so, if you're saying 10 acres though, that's 660 feet outside dimension of a square 10 acre parcel. So I don't know if you want to keep it at 500, but that's what the current city code is 500.
I don't know if 10 acres is the right, maybe we can have community development or somebody
Yeah, and that's fine,
figure it
that's
out. But longer than 500, maybe shorter, but just the policy statement of a local street plan for interconnectivity.
Right.
And I think that's great.
And if we had, and again, this is just an example of a local street plan, but if we had a local street plan that broke things up into blocks, whatever, maybe they're rectangular, maybe they're pentagons, I don't know. But if we then, instead of saying, okay, here's my development, and now I need to also plan for how this integrates 500 feet away from this whole thing, we're instead saying, show me a plan for that entire block.
So instead of saying a 10 acre block, say sequencing with local road plan for interconnectivity.
Right, and then
So they have to then-
and with a plan, what do we call it? A general plan or an integration plan on what happens on the rest of that block.
That's up to community development.
Yeah, is that getting too deep? I mean, saying what we're going to do within the block. I like
That's
just.
why I was saying
We're not saying
the
we're not saying what's going to happen on the block. We're just saying if this is going to be rezoned, there needs to be a plan for that block. That's all we're saying.
Is someone gonna come in and say they develop, I don't know, on the west side of the block, there's still a farm on the east side of the block. Is that farmer gonna come in and say, well, why is he making a plan for my property?
Well, hopefully that farmer would be invited to the table and will be asked.
That's what I'm saying.
What would you like to see?
Leave the acreage out of it.
Right.
Let the community
But
development
you're still planning for
decide.
your neighbor, and nobody's gonna want that.
Well, but they already do that.
When they stub
When you
roads
have
and things like
master
that.
plans for neighborhoods all the time, you
That's what
already
this committee's all about.
Right. I'm just
They're
saying
not
that's
being-
specific. That's specific.
And they're not being forced to do that.
Right.
It's and that's why I'm saying that of a plan for the interconnectivity. I'm not worried about acreage or anything. Just a plan for interconnectivity, and then community development, the council, and everybody, they can decide how that goes.
So I think just
the policy
kind of
of
the
you have
broader,
to interconnect.
the broader level is cohesiveness.
Yes.
Somehow, maybe we take back to the planners, guys, tell us, how can we have better policy for cohesive neighborhoods? And we don't make that for them. We just say, hey, planners, go figure out how to make cohesive neighborhoods.
Right, yeah.
And so we don't have to think through it, but let them do the dirty work.
Okay.
So that's why
Can I ask a
that's
question?
a policy question.
Yep.
So, I think you guys mostly have agreed to the stuff 1 through 4 on that list, the West Side checklist.
No. That's okay.
Now, we've been going at this, this is 3 months now?
Yes, and that's why we need to get busy.
That's why I was saying, let's start with 6. I think that policy
Well,
statement.
you can't go with 6 because you haven't defined 5. Five's telling you that you want 10 acre blocks, and you can't go to 6 if you.
Take that out.
Well, that's what I want to check.
I say I'm not opposed to the idea, David. I'm just saying take that out and let community development kind of decide what's best in that, because they're the planners. I'm not a planner. But just with the policy guidance of develop in sequence with local road plans that interconnect with each other.
So the whole idea of planning with sequence is to have cohesive neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we remove the sequence and we just say planners go figure out cohesive neighborhoods. Because we're trying to find
I
the
guess I
path
was
to
saying
cohesiveness.
sequencing for utility
leapfrog
structure too, is that's why I
So
was.
avoid leapfrogs and,
That's all sequencing really means.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a logical flow of that development.
right, but I'm just trying to get to the why, like, are we trying to save money? Do we want cohesiveness?
Money,
Why are we avoiding
utilities,
leapfrogs?
cohesiveness. I mean,
Okay.
take your pick on it.
No, I understand that, but like, take those to the planners.
Infrastructure has been the biggest
Yeah.
issue there.
Yeah.
It's also, if you do it sequentially, working your way out from the center towards the periphery, then you will have a better local streets plan than if you just build it in pockets and then try to connect them after the fact.
We've
So
seen
I like
problems with that.
the term cohesiveness,
Interconnectivity.
interconnectivity,
A little bit of complication there was just with the West Side Connector over here.
and
There's
the
gonna be
airport.
development going that way there, there's development coming that way there. So you're
Well,
not
right now-
gonna start at 6,000 and just go boom, boom.
But there's
No,
nothing along the park where.
it has to start somewhere, and it can
It's
start
probably gonna
on,
start in 3 or 4 or 5 different places.
It can start on Center
The airport
Street.
corridor is gonna start some, the West Side Connector is gonna start some. So, I mean,
But if you put the policy into place that you have to do it sequentially, there's nothing down there that they can build off of right now. So they would have to come down. I think, well, this gets into another policy discussion, but doing the commercial retail by the airport may be a starting point if we allow that to be, but right now there's no starting points down there for people to develop off of.
As we've heard, there's plans already being put in place that would develop this entire thing all in one fell swoop. And that would not necessarily, that might be considered leapfrog from the east, but it wouldn't be from the north, because particularly if we were okay with linear. One other thing, while we're talking about this, my general thought was this would be more intense use here and then fading out into more agriculture and more, bigger lots or whatever as we go out this direction.
That was actually my thought.
That was your thought too. I spoke with a developer, and he's talking about less dense here, with the idea that as airport protection zone can't be residential, and if restaurants and hotels or whatever, it's kind of the support for the airport as it grows comes in here. He was thinking that you would probably want more intense use townhomes and things here as a buffer as it goes in. So his thought was almost more intense here and kind of becoming less intense as you get up into the neighborhoods.
But that's not what the developments are going to
Let me make one more comment, maybe I'll ask a question afterwards. You talk about going from 600 south down.
Because
If Dave Graves was here, he'll tell you that you can't run the sewer uphill. And in this particular case, the sewer has got to be against the red road down on the lowest part. And so if you want a sewer, and you want the sewer to take care of all of this to the north, you've got to allow something to start down to the south and to the west. And when there's nothing there, it's not like part of this idea of leapfrogging was to keep similar type homes and not all of a sudden have it just a big change. There's nothing down there to start with. You don't have a home down there to match up to. But the sewer has got to be considered. They want something that'll do all of that.
I think, okay, we are 8 minutes away from our closing time. I think I've got enough feedback. I could take another crack at the objectives as what we've talked about. See if I could get them, particularly if we can get it onto the open City Hall. If we could get that, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I think you wait on that until you've drafted them and this body is kind of in agreement with the language, and then go out and get the other.
I'd like to put a quick draft together based on the comments, and then throw it out there and have people.
For this group.
For this group. Yeah, sorry, for this group. So a closed thing, whether it's Open City Hall or something else, but just a way for people to write comments on, I like this, I don't like this, what if we do this on the next proposal, and have it done early on.
So we only have one thing that's a fixed point that we kind of all have to agree on, and that's 4 units per acre based on limitations with our infrastructure. But if we also have to develop in a certain sequence for the sewer to function properly, we need to know that. If it has to start on the south and work its way north. Do you have any input on that, Dave?
Yeah. So Mac's right. We've been thinking contiguous to the homes that are already there coming south, but some of the infrastructure, the gravity flow, sewer and storm drain actually have to start at the bottom and come up to the development. So it's kind of flip-flopping what you're kind of thinking.
Right, and this is important because the other day I was talking to someone, it was our conversation about why people on the west side didn't want the Smith's grocery store, and there was different people with different reasons, and the farmers had their own reasons because there was not an infrastructure in place for the stormwater, and that meant all the stormwater and the oil and the junk off of that parking lot would come down into their fields and into the ditches, and they didn't want that. So infrastructure is very important. If we have to start in the south and work our way north, we need to know that.
The consumer doesn't want the oil in the pan of grease on the carrot patches either.
Right.
One other thing on that 4 units per acre, there is ways to bump that up, either globally. If you do it globally, we've got to change our trunk lines coming out to the west side. That's very expensive. Or you could do the average of 4 units per acre, which we could still accommodate that because our trunk lines are sized for just an overall 4 units per acre. So you could have 6 and 2 or whatever.
I think we understand the averages.
Well, I actually asked this of Mr. Holmes too. How much does office and retail take away from those units per acre?
How much
How much would office and retail take away from those units per acre?
That's a good discussion because commercial has a higher fire flow requirement, so we'd have to have bigger water lines, but we could still accommodate it with our current trunk lines. Yeah.
I already had a suggestion, but I want to.
Okay, we're 4 minutes away.
Can I ask the question now, after what you just said, talking about maybe higher density? Somebody has made, I've talked to several people now on the phone, and somebody said it takes houses down there and people down there to make this possible, because you're talking some collector roads, and you're talking sewers that's going to be put in, and pump stations, and maybe we would need a little higher density, just like you talked of, and they may even wish there was a little bit of commercial down there, like you talked of, a little bit further west. How does the commission feel about that? Is that a possibility, or a commercial and higher density totally out? What's your feeling?
With the time I have left, let me just answer that those are all things that we have discussed, and
and there's places,
You're not there.
but yeah, I guess we're not there yet, but those are discussions, things we've had presentations on and discussions that we have had already. We can talk after the meeting if you'd like on that. Let's just look at kind of a plan from here out. When is our next tentative meeting?
We're scheduled, we've tentatively scheduled all the off-council Tuesdays, so we are scheduled for next week, and then we would be back on the 14th.
Okay.
The 14th is Valentine's Day.
Okay, we won't be back on the 14th.
So it would be really nice. It'd be really nice if we can.
We all got together for Valentine's Day.
Or not.
Dave's fine.
Oh, you got something. Maybe it would be really nice if we could get to the point at the end of next meeting that could we actually vote on objectives to?
I think there's one policy point that we could vote on right now.
Okay.
I brought it up several times.
All right.
I'll state it again. Policy is the development, proper sequencing of development with local road plans and interconnectivity.
Okay, so we're talking
A
about
policy,
6.
that is a policy.
Okay,
point.
so I'm talking when can we by the end of next meeting actually vote on an entire
All of them?
document?
That's pretty tall.
You're laughing too.
I mean, we've now gone through 1 through 6, and there's obviously some things that, you know, but can I get a draft together? Can I get it out to all of you? Can you mark up whether you submit it to me or not, or you have it in your hands with lines on it, and we walk through and say, okay, 1, what can we agree on? What can we not agree on? Can we get it to where we're ready to vote? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We take out the stuff that we can't agree on, or that, you know, or whatever.
I think you can get 6, 5, 4, and 2 probably done, but your residential mix and your agricultural is going to take longer than that.
So you don't think? I thought we were getting pretty close to consensus on 1.
Can I make a suggestion? Take this, when he gives you the document for all this, the next draft,
Okay. Mark it up. send
mark it
out.
up, tell us what you agree with, tell us what you don't agree with, tell us what you can live with, tell us how you would amend it if you would. Don't go crazy, but go through it and try and keep it high level and tell us what you want. And I think when we pull all those comments together, then we have a better sense of where you're all at. Otherwise, we'll spend another 3 months of debating issue after issue after issue and not necessarily having heard all the voices on each of those items. Would be my suggestion.
I mean, I wonder if I could get something out, say tomorrow, and then by Monday at noon, everyone gets me feedback. I incorporate that in, and we have a document to talk about Tuesday. Because particularly with not meeting for another however many 3 weeks after that, 4 weeks after that.
If we meet next Tuesday, I don't think 2 weeks. Oh,
No, I
want to
think it's
meet on
4 weeks.
Valentine's Day.
It would be 4 weeks. So I'd love to have a vote and send that in. Well, but when we talked about doing some community,
you will
outreach. But I mean that we could move to the community outreach stage at that point if we voted on that, voted that this is what we want to propose to the public, and what we think we're going to propose to the council, and then we can spend that month with community outreach, and then be done with this stage.
So I would just point out, like, you know, Beth's proposal of sequencing and connectivity, that's general enough that most anyone would agree to it. But when you get down into like 10-acre or whatever blocks,
and that's
the more specific we get, the less agreement we get.
But see, I don't think that's our purview. I think community development should really be looking at that before it gets down to the nitty-gritty.
I guarantee you, whatever you come up with next week, and you put it up to the public in an open house or on open city hall, you're going to get 100 opinions, and half of them are going to be very different. So I think that's a reasonable process for you to go through. Let's see what we can get to next week. For the 4 council members, they're here. our open city hall policy says before we can put a subject on there, we need approval of the majority of council. If the four of you would agree, we'll get a topic on at the end of the week that fits this.
End of this week?
We could put whatever your proposed document is. I can set it up. There's one that takes annotation, and we could have everyone on the committee be able to
This
put their
as a
notes
closed
on
group.
that document. It would, yeah, it wouldn't be a public thing. It would be the committee only. And that might facilitate getting closer to your next meeting.
I'd be willing to vote for something that's closed. I'd be willing to.
Yeah, it'd just
to
be
approve
closed. We just need your
something
permission. We'll send an email confirming that you said it's okay.
Okay.
I see 3 nods. I see 4. I see 4 nods.
Is that kind of like a Google Doc?
It works in a lot in the same way, yeah.
Okay. Any last comments?
If you get to me by the end of work on Monday, then we can hopefully pull together on Tuesday.
Okay. All right. I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Like Pam Argyle, she's only got 5 acres right now. So if you don't put a 10 acre specification, you're gonna have whatever homes fit on those 3 acres.